What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Cody here, and I wanted to welcome on a special guest, Megan Hall at the Megan Hall on Twitter, writer for ColtsWire.com. Megan, thanks so much for coming on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantabulous. That is fantastic and fabulous at the same time.
I love it. I love it. And we'll probably be doing a little bit more fantabulous when we finally get an answer at quarterback. I tell you what, there's only so much you can write, so much you can talk about when it comes to, talking about this quarterback situation with the Colts really not doing anything in free agency the last couple of weeks. What have you kind of been trying to focus on here and kind of this, and how are you feeling overall just about the NFL draft in a little under 3 weeks and just everything surrounding the Colts and their potential future at quarterback here?
Yeah, honestly, I've been trying to stay sane in terms of just keep things in front of me, keep perspective in front of me. I think everyone is grasping at any sort of like hint at what the Colts are going to do at quarterback. I think you can sense that fans are still reeling from last season and really the end of the season before with the Carson Wentz experience. So yeah, that's mostly what I've been trying to do is just keep things level head. And I get it, a lot of pent up frustration is coming from fans, so you're kind of feeling that heat. But I think I'd take a page out of Chris Ballard's book where he says, "Hey, none of that pressure gets to me." He's like, it doesn't bother me. And I'm like, well, I won't say it doesn't bother me, but I feel it. But it's more of like, hey, can we just stay the course and stay calm?
Absolutely. Yeah. No doubt. I mean, it's just everywhere. People have all these opinions and you're just like, what am I do with this? What do I actually think? I hear people on this quarterback, on trading away the pick for this guy. It's just everywhere. There's so much speculation right now. So it'll be nice to kind of have a future, idea what the Colts are going to do at quarterback. But I kind of wanted to talk about today, Megan, because there was a report that came out earlier today when we record on Monday. This will come out on Tuesday, but on Monday, Adam Schefter tweeted out that at least 6 teams have inquired with the Arizona Cardinals about trading up 3rd overall to the NFL draft. And right now, he says the Cardinals are mulling that potential. So let me ask you this question. If put on your GM hat real fast, as Chris Ballard, do you think the Colts should be one of those teams? And how serious do you think the Colts should be about really trying to trade up with Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm Chris Ballard, I'm going to mull my options, right? I'm absolutely going to do my due diligence. That's first and foremost. Now, whether or not you actually move is a second question, and then you have to think about, okay, well, how much is this going to cost me? In my opinion, I think the longer you wait, the more the cost goes up, right? Like maybe right now it's only going to, maybe they're going to ask for, we'll say 2 picks right now, but closer to draft day, it could be 3 picks. And especially, for example, if you're a team who is lower in the round, like a Minnesota Vikings, for example, that have been coming up in a lot of speculation. I think they're down at like 22 or somewhere in that range. That's a big jump to do that, but they would be willing to, to try to get there to 3. So it's really about like, how comfortable are you if you don't move? And if you're going to move, what are you comfortable giving up? And I think that's the larger question right now. I think if I were making the choice, this is just me, but if there's a guy that I'm really high on, let's say it's a Will Levis, for example. You're really high on Will Levis, right? And you think someone else is going to take him, I would move up to 3 then if you felt like, okay, yeah, this is our guy, this is our franchise. At this point, I think that it's probably not going to cost you as much as other teams, right? Like Arizona doesn't want to drop too far down because they want to block Seattle from getting, any sort of top tier talent within the division. So I think that you're in a prime driver's seat here to make that decision. It's just about whether or not you want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You had 2 points there that I kind of want to circle back on. The first one, I think when it comes to Indy, it's really interesting to kind of think like, okay, which guy is their guy? Do they have a guy that they specifically have targeted? Because I know they weren't ready yet. Chris Ballard said they weren't ready to jump up to 1 and give away all those assets. But what for you would kind of be the maximum if you're Chris Ballard that you're willing to give up if Arizona is asking, they have other teams inquiring, what would you be willing to give up to move up to 3?
Yeah, so I've actually had a couple conversations with several different fans about this sort of same scenario. And in my mind, I see 2 picks, but I would also throw in maybe a Mo Alley Cox as well, right? There's been rumors about him being a trade target. You could pick either Mo Alley Cox, you could pick Kenny Moore II, you could pick Ryan Kelly. All 3 of those positions the Cardinals need. I think you could use, Mo Ali Cox as depth behind Zach Ertz and Trey McBride. They definitely, I think, could use some offensive line help. And yeah, CB as well. I mean, that is not without the realm, I think, and you would be able. I think you'd feel comfortable there. Do I see it necessarily being Kelly or Kenny Moore? Not necessarily. They could still be dealt, but I think Chris Ballard just said very recently, within the last 2 weeks or so, hey, we feel comfortable, we feel good about the guys. We really like them. We're going to keep them. But I think Mo Ali Cox makes a very very interesting trade target because he really hasn't lived up to, I think, really what the Colts were expecting out of him. Once you got rid of Jack Doyle, well, I won't say got rid of, but Jack Doyle retires, right? Mm-hmm. Jack Doyle retires, and then you essentially pay Mo Ali Cox because you're like, hey, somebody's got to be the guy. We want to show you a good faith. So you pay him, and then you don't really get the production that matches the pay, right? So that's part of the issue. I mean, Mo's a solid guy, and there's nothing against the guy, but of course, this is a "what have you done for me lately" league. So I think in that case, yeah, I would package up Mo Ali Cox and 2 picks and send them right on over to Arizona.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and I'm assuming those would be second, third, fourth round, somewhere around there. You're not going to wait next year's first. No way.
Absolutely not. 0 out of 10 would not recommend. Half a star.
Yeah, right. Because what happens if you get your rookie quarterback and you still stink and you have a top 10 pick? That would be very valuable, and that would be a ton of assets to give up. So I definitely think if you can keep your first next year, that's a huge win. But, it's not mortgaging your future either. If you really have a guy I think that you're set on. And then I also wanted to kind of flip it because you mentioned Arizona, right? Seattle is right there, right behind Indy, right? And you think about that, is Arizona willing to trade behind Seattle and potentially have to deal with, a Will Anderson for the next 10 years? Like, are they willing to do that? And I think that's kind of the dilemma that maybe Arizona finds itself in right now, because honestly, for what Arizona would have to do, I know they would, other teams probably would give them more draft capital. But and this is the debate that Derek and I just had actually, is like, are you willing to maybe get more quantity, but maybe sacrifice on the quality that is a Will Anderson and potentially let him fall right into the laps of a division rival? What are your thoughts on that if you're kind of looking at this from maybe an Arizona perspective?
Oh, that's tough. That is really tough to have to fall behind Seattle. I mean, it's what can you live with, right? That's really the question, is what can you live with? If I'm Arizona, I wouldn't want to move back that far. Honestly, I would want to block Seattle as much as I can. I think right now you also have to think about this. The Arizona Cardinals, their season and their off season essentially is falling from the sky. They had a horrific season that it really just kind of went down the tube with injuries, with ineffective play calling. Games were just brutal. And then of course you've got front office issues, you've got staff issues. I mean, you name it, it probably happened with the Arizona Cardinals, and they potentially have, I would think, probably one of the more what's the best word I got? It's not great. It's not a great roster. Let me say that. It's just not. And it needs work. So here's your opportunity to do work, right? So I think if you have the opportunity to block a division rival, get the pieces that you need, you got to take that. At least I would think.
Right. And especially when we talk all the time about premium positions, they have quarterback at least right now, but edge rush, they just lost JJ Watt to retirement, right? Like, edge rush is one of those things where I honestly view it as like, quarterback's obviously the number one, the hardest position to draft, the hardest guys to develop. But I think pass rush is like right there as well to get some quality pass rushers. I mean, very rarely I think we found like do those, outside of like the top 10. Some guys do, but like it seems like a lot of the star pass rushers in the NFL and today's NFL are those guys that get taken in the top 5, top 10. And we've seen from the Colts, unfortunately, with all the draft capital they threw at pass rush, and they're still sitting here, and we still are asking questions, right, about the pass rush. So are they willing to miss out on a can't miss prospect like Will Anderson? And if they did trade with Indy, they would get some draft capital. Now, it might not be as much as, say, I don't know, like the Raiders would throw at them or something like that. But what they are getting is the best player in the draft, from what a lot of people think, and especially on defense. And also they're getting some picks as well. They'll get some day 2, day 3 picks as well. I don't know. For me, that just makes too much sense, where they're still going to get their guy, but they're going to also, it's kind of like a mutually beneficial thing where Indy gives them some more draft capital, but also Indy makes sure that no other team's going to trade ahead of them to number 3. So it just makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know what your thoughts are on that kind of trade. And do you think that makes the most logical sense? And do you think maybe Arizona's trying to maybe drive up the price a little bit for Indy?
I mean, who wouldn't want to drive up the price, right? If you're going to get all you can get, that's it's to the comment I made earlier is that the longer you wait, the more the price goes up. So actually, Sean McGinnis and I were having this conversation a couple days ago. And he's like, well, I think, like 2 picks to get it done. And I'm like, I don't know about 2 picks. Like, I think that you're going to have, it's going to have to be a little bit more because again, we're what? We'll say 2.5 weeks, give or take, from the draft right now. And the price might be that now, but if teams continue to wait or Arizona continues to wait to see if they can field offers, I mean, that price could go up to even 3 picks. It could be 4 picks, depending on how far down someone is and is wanting to move up to 3. You just saw Carolina practically had to give up the farm to go from 9 to 1. So if someone is down in the 20s and wanting to jump up, like, yeah, you're going to have to send us all the picks that that you can afford. And, Arizona would be smart, to take one of those offers. I mean, I think at this point is for them, it has to be worth the risk. That's absolutely like, okay, if we move, it has to be worth the risk.
Right.
But there's also a chance that they could just stay put. They could field all these offers and say, you know what? I'm not comfortable here. I'm going to stay at 3 and go from there. And the thing is, if they stay at 3, then it becomes for the Colts. All right, what are we comfortable with landing in our lap here at 4?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the best case scenario is the Colts don't give away any draft capital and Arizona just stays put at 3 and drafts, the best player, not non-quarterback player out there in their opinion. I think that's the best case scenario for Indy. But I do always wonder, there's always that small chance that Carolina or Houston does something crazy and it changes everything when it comes to the draft. And then the Colts are sitting there. They somehow, it's a worst case scenario. They sit there and they're drafting the 4th best quarterback out there somehow at the 4th overall pick. I don't know if that's a reality because people have said this draft class, while there's some solid prospects, next year's draft class is crazy compared to this one. Like, this is an okay draft class from what people have said at quarterback. But and I do wonder, we haven't really seen that. We haven't seen a scenario where teams are all trading up and there's 4 quarterbacks going in the first 4 picks. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but it would be crazy if that were to happen. If there'd be quarterbacks taking 4 straight picks, that's really not common. I don't feel like.
No, it would be unprecedented to see in a draft. I cannot remember in my lifetime ever seeing quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, let alone 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that it's very likely. So one of 2 things. I think it's very likely that Carolina's pick is what sends the ripple effect throughout the rest of the draft. So, we've been hearing a lot about Carolina and CJ Stroud, and that's supposed to be the assumed pick. But I always think, okay, what if Carolina takes Bryce Young? That would change things. So, for example, you heard reports of Bryce Young, being extremely cerebral, very, very smart guy, talk football with Frank Wright, right? Blew him away. Okay, great. If Frank starts banging the table, for example, for Bryce and gets everyone on board and Carolina takes Bryce at 1, then you have to start asking yourself, okay, well, what happens at 2? A lot of Texans fans have said, oh, well, we'll just take CJ Stroud. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I see Bryce Young fitting better in Houston than CJ Stroud would. But you also have to remember the Texans have pick 2, they have pick 12. So they could come back, they could, package. I mean, they also have 12 picks, which is insane. So, they could get a little creative if the draft doesn't go their way or fall their way. And then the other thing to think is, what if someone, of course, jumps up to 3, knocks Arizona out of 3 and jumps up to 3, and they take, Will Levis or they take Anthony Richardson there. Are the Colts fine with just having the 4th best quarterback? That's where I hesitate because I'm like, the Colts aren't really super excited about all 4, top 4 quarterback prospects. They don't see a ton of separation. There is separation, but just not a ton. As Zach Kiefer put it, this isn't a Joe Burrow or a Trevor Lawrence, type of draft class. So they're not going to force a pick. And Chris Ballard also confirmed that as well. So I could see this is my hey, 2% scenario where I said earlier today, I was like, hey, 98% sure they take a quarterback, but 2% is for what if they don't take a quarterback? quarterback. And because hey, it is Chris Ballard, by the way.
Yeah.
But I'm like, would they take a Christian Gonzalez at 4? Like, I mean, CB is a extreme area of need. You're very, very thin right now. It's very possible you could do that. I mean, would they take edge at 4? There's these scenarios. So I think people just need to keep that in mind, that it's not this kind of like absolute, yeah, they're going to 100% take a quarterback, even if it's the 4th guy off the board. I'm not convinced there. I think, Chris Ballard's draft history would tell us otherwise. And I think we need to be prepared for that scenario.
Yeah, but let's say the 98% happens and the Colts do take a quarterback at 4, and they have the choice between Anthony Richardson, Will Levis. That's kind of been the two guys that have kind of been up for debate here recently. Do you have a guy that you think, based off of the guy they brought in, Shane Steichen, and where the Colts' current roster is, kind of where you project them, and based off these two prospects, two very different guys, but two guys that share a commonality in being very raw still. They have some things they have to work on. Two guys that didn't really have great seasons last year, but both guys who I think people would say, if they get in the right system, they could turn into really good quarterbacks. Do you have a quarterback here? I guess, what's your take on both these quarterbacks? And do you prefer one over the other? Or are you kind of just like, hey, whoever falls, I'm going to be good with?
Yeah, so I'll start with the way that I look at the quarterback. So I view it as a tier 1 and tier 2. So in my tier 1 is Bryce Young, it's CJ Stroud, it's kind of 1A, 1B, right? You get down to tier 2 and it's Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. And some days I have Will Levis at 2A, some days I have him at 2B, and it flips. It really just depends on, I guess, kind of the day. But I feel like with Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, they're a lot closer than people think. I think what gets Anthony Richardson kind of, the harsher criticism is the fact that he doesn't have as big of a body of work, right? He's got 13 games, very, very raw. You see that, his film is kind of up and down, but you do see the upside there with him. You see the wow throws, and then you see the, oh my goodness, why did you throw that? Sort of throws. And I think with Will Levis, it's much of the same, but I will point this out. So I was watching TV a couple days ago, and Darren Orlovsky did a phenomenal breakdown on Will Levis and situational football. And so he was talking about, hey, people criticize Will Levis for his film and for some of these quote unquote questionable decisions. And so he said it was more of a circumstance than versus like, hey, he just decided to throw this interception here. And so the way he broke it down was, hey, you've got, 3 guys running 3 different routes. You're expecting them to beat their men. They don't. And so Will Levis is trying to get the ball to where he thinks is the open guy, ends up throwing an interception there. But it's, hey, I feel the pressure and I see that my guys are somewhat open, but I'm trying to make something happen. So it's more of a like, hey, I feel like I've got to try to fit this ball in there. I think if he were to have a better supporting cast, obviously, than he did, like he had a better supporting cast in 2021 than he did in 2022. But if you were to have, at his disposal an MPJ, Alec Pierce, Isaiah McKenzie, like, yeah, now you're cooking now. Now you got some options here. And if you're able to get your tight ends involved, some nice little safety valves, you'd be able to give him some help. I do think the same thing for Anthony Richardson as well. Didn't have a great supporting cast. Felt like he had to, play hero ball here. I think for both of them, questions remain on footwork. Questions remain on, can they remain consistent and accurate? And the question remains, like, who do you feel like would be, solid for the Colts, for the long road ahead and for the, years to come. If I'm making the pick, I've said this before, I would take Anthony Richardson, even though I have no problem with Will Levis. I'm taking Richardson for being younger. I think Will Levis will be 24 by the time he starts. Anthony Richardson's 20 years old right now. So you've got, definitely those years back. And then the upside. Now, of course, there's a lot of risk with Anthony Richardson because, he could either be extremely great or he could be a big bust. So you've got to be comfortable with that. But what I think gives me confidence is Shane Steichen and the staff that he's assembled. Having seen Steichen work with 3 different quarterbacks with Phillip Rivers, Justin Herbert, and Jalen Hurts. Obviously, Hurts wasn't as raw as Richardson, but you saw the jump from the back half of 2021 into 2022. Significant improvement, and a lot of that goes to what Shane Steichen was talking about of molding the offense around the quarterback, highlighting it to his strengths, and not forcing the quarterback to just drop him right into the offense. So I think that he would do that very nicely for Anthony Richardson, and really just about confidence and reps, 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 and more reps and patience for him. I think the Colts are at a situation now where they could do that. So that would be my pick. But I'll say this: if the pick is Will Levis, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be angry. I will support, Will Levis, and I would want to see him do well. I think the thing for him would be same thing I'd want for Anthony Richardson: consistency. Can you be consistent with your decision making? Can you feel the pressure in the pocket? Can we make sure that we working through our progressions, things like that? So I think you can't go wrong with either. But my pick would be Anthony Richardson.
Gotcha. My question also, and I don't know if this is for one quarterback, for both of them. Would you have, like, you talked about reps and how important those are? Like, if you're drafting either of these guys, are you like, because you did sign Gardner Minshew, who is a quality backup and could be that bridge quarterback. Are you the type of person that you would rather just throw that quarterback out there, let them go into game action, live bullets, or let them maybe sit a little bit? Like, if you had the choice, like, say you draft Anthony Richardson, do you go into it expecting him to be your starter day one, or do you feel like you can have some patience with him and let him grow and let him kind of learn maybe for a couple games or however long it takes till you'll feel comfortable throwing him out there? What are your thoughts just on maybe those guys, since they both are still extremely raw prospects here?
Yeah, that's a fair question. Honestly, I think with Richardson, yeah, he would probably need a little bit more time to sit, right? Like, you definitely need a couple of games. And I've tweeted before and said this before that, I think plus or minus 6 games, I wouldn't expect Gardner Minshew to be the starter for, the entire season. If that's the case, oh boy, prayers up, Colts fans, because you're gonna need a lot of patience. But I think with Richardson, yeah, you would need a couple of games. Now, here's the thing: I do think that Levis could be thrown out there immediately, if you needed to, right? Like, let's go for it, Will. Like, we're gonna start you from game one. But it would also require, like, patience, because I would be curious to see again what he does with all his weapons at his disposal. You're talking 3 wide receivers, you're talking 2 to 3 tight ends, you're talking protection from an offensive line. What is he going to do with that, in front of him? So I'd be curious there. But I think, even if you were to sit Levis, I don't think it would be like sitting him for, 8 to 9 games or anything else like that. Couple of games, 3, 4 at max, and, let him roll.
Gotcha. I was just curious because I feel like people have kind of been all over the spectrum when it comes to the quarterbacks and, the different guys the Colts could get if they should start right away. I'm personally more of a, I just want to see them. I think there's nothing more valuable than just getting those guys game reps, live action. And if they're, if they struggle, that's what happens, like, as long as you feel like it's not going to break their confidence, like maybe we've seen with some rookie quarterbacks, I'm perfectly comfortable throwing them out there and letting them learn, kind of trial by fire a little bit, knowing year one probably will be a little bit tough. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of what, and Jim Irsay said as much, right? He's not looking so much at 2023. He's more looking 2024, 2025, down the road a little bit more. And so I just think, like, that's a good thing. Like, there's not the expectation that these guys are going to come in like the world on fire, throw 40 touchdowns in the rookie season or something crazy like that. Like, that's not the expectation. So I think there's some room to grow. I mean, you signed Shane Steichen to a 6-year deal. So, I mean, you do think that, he's going to have a little bit of wiggle room here to develop his guy. So really will be interesting to see who the Colts do end up going with. But regardless, it's got to be an upgrade from where the Colts were last year when it comes to the quarterback position. Couldn't have gotten much worse than it was last year at certain points. So really excited to see who the Colts do bring in. Megan, why don't you tell everybody, though, thank you for coming on, really appreciate it. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find your work and what you do over there at Colts Wire?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a writer for Colts Wire. That is USA Today's sports media group. So you can find my work at coltswire.usatoday.com. That's work from me. That's work from our entire staff. Other places you can find me. You can find me on Twitter. It's at the Megan Hall. Same thing on Instagram, at the Megan Hall. On YouTube and on TikTok, it's Real Life Blue Stories. That is my podcast, which is all around Colts football and some blue stories and some not. But it's all centered around storytelling and getting to know people and their football perspectives.
Awesome. Well, guys, be sure to go check her stuff out. Megan, thanks so much for coming on. We'll have to do it again. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Sounds good. All right. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. You guys have a great one. And as always, guys, go Colts.